Hey everyone, as you filter in, I hope you're having a good week. Just a reminder that Senate is currently being live streamed. We will start at 7:01 so that we don't keep you guys over, but we can get as many people in as possible. All right, as people filter in, does anyone have corrections to the minutes from the previous week? Any corrections to the minutes? All right, there being no corrections, the minutes are approved as written. We will move on then to reports, starting with Miles's report. I will share my screen to do that now, or once I get access to share my screen. Caroline, can you please give me screen share access?
Yeah, hold on. I was admitting people into the waiting room. I will give you screen share access. People are still trickling in, so okay, just there you go. Okay.
Miles, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Ellie. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great week. The Deeks won. We beat Virginia. Now we just gotta wait for Virginia Tech. Most importantly, I hope everybody's midterms go off well as well. For this week, myself and the exec are going to the trustee meeting to talk about the advisory board and the search process, and having a listening session with the trustees and all, and students, leaders about the next university president. Additionally, as I stated before, I'll be sitting on the advisory board and we'll try to be as transparent as possible about information that we will be giving out to students. I know hopefully everybody's seen the website for the new president and the search for the president's website. So I hope everybody's been looking at that, been taking opportunities to maybe look through the process a little bit more. So we'll be coming out with more updates by next week about that. Additionally, mental health meeting. So myself, Pilar, and Annie went last week, had a meeting with the chaplain's office, the UCC, and I think the Thrive office. I let Pilar and Annie kind of fill you in on that, but it was a very productive meeting, and more importantly, we look forward to just collaborating with them for the future for mental health stuff. Additionally, March to the Polls was awesome last week. Hope everybody's been going to the polls, especially now that the voting place is like literally right here at the church. But thankfully, they had another spot open, and the last day on the 31st, and Victoria's on the 25th. So Allie and Drew, as the elections task force leaders, will be taking out the mantle of student government with Student Union and President Hatch and Provost Kirch to march to the polls on October 31st. Hopefully you all can join. Other student government members are happy to be participating in that event also. So if there are any other questions, that is my report, and Allie is next.
Does anyone have questions for Miles's report, or in general for Miles? Questions for Miles? Okay, we will move on to my report then. So Dean's Corner for the Dean of Admissions, Dean Vargas, is happening October 28th. Thank you everyone who was interested. There were a lot of you who were interested and only 4 spots, unfortunately. And so what we ended up doing was trying to get the most representative group possible. So there are 2 freshmen and 2 cabinet members doing it. And we basically picked at that point based on who had noted their interest first. So more opportunities like this hopefully to come. And I've kept the list of everyone who's interested in this one so that for the next one, we, get different people involved, but that is happening and Dean Vargas is really excited about it. As many of you know, I am the student representative on the Counseling Center Director Search Committee on behalf of student government. And we have been doing resume reviews and then interviews and things like that since August. We are now down to our finalist candidates and they are moving to live in-person interviews. They're not really in person because coronavirus, but those 5 interviews will be taking place over the next 2.5 weeks. And they have asked for student government representatives for those interviews. D&I and Campus Life have kind of taken up the mantle on that one. So we should have 1 student government representative besides myself at each of those interviews. And you guys would have heard from me from that as well. And then Miles and I will be alternating back and forth for one of the other interview members. Just a note to mark your calendars, Senate will be canceled on November 3rd. For the general election. So we will not have Senate on November 3rd. That means there are only between 3 and 4 Senates left this semester. I have to check the calendar to make the exact determination of that. But if you have any outstanding projects that you wanted to get done by the end of the semester, any legislation you've been working on but kind of pushing off, just keep in mind that, we're getting a little short on time and that we will only probably have 2 more Senates before we leave for the semester and are forced to be fully virtual. So just know that that is something coming down the pike. And then elections task force wise, Miles pretty much hit the nail on the head. Drew and I are going to be doing the march to the polls on behalf of student government with President Hash, Provost Kirsch, and Student Union. We would love to have as many of you guys out there as possible, even if you already voted and you just want to walk and show your support for civic engagement. It's supposed to have nice weather. So that is it for me. Does anyone have any questions? All right, then we will move on to Victoria.
Hey guys, I don't have much this week. Just like we're not going to have Senate on November 3rd, SBAC will also not be meeting on November 3rd. And then like Miles said, I'm leading the March to the Polls this Sunday, October 25th at 12 p.m. So please come out.
Any questions for Victoria? All right, Caroline.
Hey everyone, I sent out the midterm report last week. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out and continue getting your extracurricular requirements for this semester. Remember that you have to get 2 each semester that you're a member of student government. And there's a new extracurricular opportunity this week if you attend the Campus Life meeting. And I'm sure that the Campus Life co-chairs will talk more about the opportunity in their individual report. Yeah, and then also continue to go to the March to the Polls. I'll also be there on October 31st. So I hope to see you there too.
Does anyone have questions for Caroline? Okay, Drew.
Well, congrats to Victoria. Anyways, early voting, like Allie and Miles both have mentioned, is still continuing. I will say a lot of people have been early voting, so keep it up. I voted today, very simple. For those wondering, they did not require me to have a printed proof of residency, but I still recommend it just in case. And then D&I, Judiciary, and I are having interviews this week for Senate appointments. Yeah, keep up the energy.
Any questions for Drew? All right, Tim. Our lovely advisor, Tim, sorry.
I knew that was coming. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Well done, everyone except Robbie Graff.
Hold on, sorry, more energy. Hi, Tim.
There it is. Thanks, buddy. I hope you're all doing well. I come with actually an update that's only come to me in the last few minutes. So it seems I'm going to advise you all to look at the COVID-19 dashboard over the next few days. And looking at it yesterday, for lack of a better term, we have a spike, and want to make sure you all know that, so you are spreading the word, especially going into this weekend. I'm still getting the specifics, but we know there was a spike. If you look at the dashboard, and I believe you'll see in the next day or two that the spike continued, to the point that unfortunately we were close. I would say by the end of this week, we had for the most part worked out our plans for what phase change would look like to increase event sizes, both inside and outside. I've been working on that for the last few days with a team of staff members from across campus. I got word a few minutes ago that we're going to have to put that on hold. We are going to stay at 25 and 10. I don't know for how long, because literally the spike's happening in real time. But wanted to make sure you all knew this for a few different reasons. One, obviously your student government, and it's important that you do know. So as you're talking with your constituents, one of the things that we will obviously do is through contact tracing, try to figure out what's going on. And that's not figuring out who did what wrong or who's in trouble or what's going on or off campus, but we're going to have to try to figure out where this trend is coming from and if it is a trend. It's just a good reminder to all of us that we are not out of the woods. There's been a lot of good conversation the last few weeks about what can we roll back and what can we move forward on. Unfortunately, we're seeing this around the nation, so we know whether we like it or not, this is a harsh reminder that we are still in a pandemic. I'm sorry to be delivering this news. I can tell you this is pretty much what I've been working on for the last 3-4 days. So the fact that we've got to put it on hold frustrates me as well. But again, when you're in your residence halls, when you're off campus, when you're in classes, just a reminder to the things that have gotten us this far is going to be really, really important. As I get more detail, I will share it with you all. But obviously, please be attuned to this in the next few days. Especially going into this weekend, you've probably, Peter Reeves was hoping to come this week, but he unfortunately couldn't because he was on PTO today, paid time off for those of you who don't know what PTO means. But essentially what he was coming to talk about was just a reminder that the next few weeks tend to be particularly high risk weeks. This is the final football game, the final home football game before Thanksgiving. I'm not going to tell you what it is because we've been hearing that students aren't paying attention to it, but if you know, you know. And for those who know what this weekend potentially is, here's a question that our first year students may not know. Those who have been around, what is the number one factor that leads to hospitalization for students involving alcohol at Wake Forest University? Anybody?
Consuming too much.
Can you be more specific, Mr. Britt?
Specifically consuming a lot of hard alcohol.
Hard alcohol. Over 95% of our hospitalizations in the 5 years I've been at Wake Forest are due to hard alcohol. So we've been hearing that this semester is different, and we know it's been different, but especially this upcoming weekend. So I remind you all of this, not just from a COVID perspective, but from a health and safety perspective. We know that the football game doesn't provide a gathering point like it normally does. So it's going to be inherent on you all, especially off campus and in residence halls with your friends. So between the spike we've had in the last few days and this upcoming weekend, we just ask that you pay extra diligence to yourself and team. Couple updates. I know that many of you have been asking about study space. Hopefully you all know. If you don't know, start this past Sunday, the Sutton Center lower gym has been converted to a study hall. It can accommodate up to 88 students, and electrical cords have been laid to provide power to almost all of the tables. It also has restrooms and bottle filling stations. It's now open as a late night study hall until 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday nights, with a graduate student there and able to keep it open. So 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday nights. After the Wellbeing Center's closed, you can swipe into the main entrance of the Sunset. So we're going to start pushing this out, but there is available late night study space, and this is going to continue for the foreseeable future. So I wanted to make sure you all knew Also wanted to share some information with you. I don't think I shared this last week, so I apologize if I did, but I know there's been lots of questions around is there enough to do and what's going on campus? And again, we all know there's not nearly as much to do as there normally is, especially with our large ticket events, but I'm going to put these stats in here for you all to see and understand. So far this semester, we've had over 7,500 students view our virtual involvement fair, which is available on Flipgrid. We've had over 1,100 events, a good portion of those coming from Campus Rec. There's also been lots of conversations about in-person versus virtual events. We've had 381 in-person events, and between the 676 non-Campus Rec events, 385 of them have been assigned for Link Loop points. Last year, we had 419 total Link Loop points the entire year. So we're really, really excited with what we're seeing. Students are using Cork. One of the things that's not in here is, I know there are a lot of questions about the event planning process and is the event planning process taking too long? Last year, Erin Forbes, if you know Erin, she's an assistant director in our office. She did a review of average time from the first time a student group walked into our office for an event planning meeting through the actual approval of the event. Last year, it was an average of 21 days it took to go through the event planning process. She's done it for this year. Even with the extra safety COVID steps, it's taking student organizations an average of 10 days. So we're down 11 days, even with more steps. So I'm asking that you share these numbers and you share that narrative with students and faculty and staff around campus, because again, we know this year looks different, but we continue to try to work with you all to pump out things to do. So I just threw a lot out at you. I'll stop and see if you all have any questions.
Anyone have questions for Tim?
I have a question. So you said that you were like trying to start to like not move forward with easing of restrictions with the spike. Do you think that the spike is going to bring any like more restrictions, like us moving from phase yellow to like phase orange, or do you think that right now the severity of it isn't bad enough to do that?
Jackson, it's a good question. I honestly don't have that information, but I think it's safe to say that that conversation is happening because that conversation has to happen. The fact that we're being told to hold up and not move forward, tells me that of course there's a conversation that says, okay, where are we in relation to having to go phase orange? But that hasn't been relayed to me yet.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Tim?
I have a comment on what Tim said regarding the Sutton study space. It is until 1 a.m. and the masks are required because I work there. It is masks over the nose. So if you're going to tell your friends to go, masks go over the nose, because if we tell you more than twice, you're out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because it is 80 people, 6 feet apart. Don't be going to other people's desks, because we will tell you need to separate. It's really restricted. It's a small area, but it is like big enough for like 80 people. So just follow those rules, please. It's until 1 a.m. Otherwise, it's going to be a big ordeal at the gym space itself.
Can I follow up on what Gabby just said?
You can, of course, Tim.
To what Gabby just said, yes.
It's great because we're going to talk about this in academics report too, I'm sure. Anything else for Tim? Make good choices this weekend, friends. There's a pandemic, and also just make good choices. If there are no other questions, we will move on then to committee reports, starting with academic.
Yeah, so we'll get it out of the way now. Sutton Center is open until 1 a.m. One of the gyms has been converted into a study space. I'm not going to say the whole thing again. So yeah, okay.
Sorry, Brayden. I didn't mean to steal your report.
No, you're good. All right. So other than that, Ava and I had a meeting with ODOC last week. We talked about a lot. So we started talking about course modalities in the spring, and professors have already been choosing that. And so far, a lot of professors have been choosing more in-person options. So that's a combination of blended and face-to-face classes. We don't have final numbers on that because they're subject to change, because through the end of the month, when you take into account space and stuff like that, like things will change. So once we have numbers on that, we will share them with everyone. Also, if you're on a faculty committee, you should hear from the chair of that committee by the end of this week, because they haven't been communicating with some of us, and that's being sorted out. Also, we brought up the pass-fail option, which a lot of you voiced support for, and thank you for reaching out and doing that. Unfortunately, there is a 0% chance that it will be happening this semester. It was shot down immediately. If you want any more information about why, please reach out to either Ava or I, and we can talk to you about that. Faculty are also responding very well to the election day resolution that we passed a couple of weeks ago. I know a lot of my professors have reached out about changes on election day for their classes, and just in general, a lot of professors have taken kindly to that. That's all I have. Ava, do you have anything?
I think that's it.
Any questions for academic?
I actually do have a question. So to my understanding, registration for next year is around the time that a lot of people will be leaving. Apologies if this is misinformation, but from what I read from the email, that's what I got. And if that's true, can y'all maybe speak to that or investigate in that? Because depending on like my personal registration time, if that's true, I might like be traveling during that time. So I was just wondering the thoughts behind it, if I have the facts correct.
So right now I don't know the dates off the top of my head. I'm forgetting them, but I can look into it. And if they do coincide with like the days that we're leaving, we can reach out to the registrar about that.
Yeah, Megan, you're right. They definitely do coincide with leaving.
Okay, thank you all so much. I just think that might be a pretty big concern to at least most everyone definitely out of state, and even if you live close by, just because travel takes up a lot of your day no matter way you cut it. So thank you guys.
Any other questions for academic? All right, then we will move on to campus life.
Not sure where the rest of our slide is. There was more on it, but
I can stop and reshare it, but just talk and I'll do that while you talk.
okay, cool. So this week, Annie and I met with Vice President Rue. It went really well. One of the things she's most focused on is how to improve the residence life and engagement experiences of freshmen on campus. So that's something she wants us to talk more about. So as Caroline mentioned earlier, we will be hosting extracurricular activity for freshmen or anyone who wants to come next week during our committee meeting to just discuss how to improve the lives of freshmen on campus. That's actually going to be next Wednesday at 4 p.m. during our committee meeting. And we also discussed the counseling center, specifically how a lot of students are uncomfortable with doing counseling in their suites or with roommates present virtually. So we talked about potentially getting safe spaces for students for those counseling center meetings.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, going off that, we had our meeting with the UCC, the Thrive office, and then the chaplain's office. And so they actually do have safe spaces on campus for students to use, but they, a lot of students aren't using them. So if any of your constituents are complaining about that, just let them know that there are some spaces available that they can use. Besides that, the other meeting went really well. If you have any questions about the specifics that we talked about, reach out to me. And yeah.
Allie, can I jump in for a sec?
Of course, Tim.
Just a heads up that I was at the Campus Life Leadership Team meeting this past Thursday, and Dr. Paredes and Marianne Tratner were specifically talking about their meeting, and they said it was really, really productive. And they asked if you all wanted, they'd be happy to come talk more specifically, just to, so you can all put names to faces and kind of bolster what Annie's talking about. So if you all want them to come to next week's meeting, they would be happy to. You just need to reach out.
I can make that happen too. Let me spread a note to do that. Any other questions or comments for Campus Lives report?
I do have one question. I don't know how relevant this is, but I did have a question about, so residence halls are going to be closing on the 25th, I believe. And I was just wondering what campus would look like, especially now that COVID and, the pandemic, for people who are staying on campus. For example, for me, I'm a US citizen, but I also live internationally. So I'm planning on staying for the rest of the semester. I was just wondering what kind of would happen, or if you guys have been having conversations about what campus would look like after that.
For clarification, Dana, do you mean like socially, or are you speaking more just in terms of where people will be living and eating?
More about where people will be living and eating. Like, are we still going to be staying in the same places, or will they move us around? Like, I think that's kind of important, especially for me, just so that I can mentally prepare myself.
I am 99.9% sure, Dana, that it will be. Dana, I'm going to ask an unusual question. Are you a first year student?
No, I'm a junior.
Okay, we just haven't met. I'm sorry. The reason I asked was to help provide context. It's going to be a lot like it was in March and April. In terms of my understanding is students will still live in their residence hall rooms. Food service will continue. I don't believe it'll be as limited as it was during COVID. It won't be single serve delivered to your room unless we have some sort of drastic phase change. But yeah, I think you'll still be living in your room. It won't be as restrictive, but it'll be very similar.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have more specific questions, Dana, I would definitely recommend shooting those over to fiscal planning, and they can look into specifics as well, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Campus Life? All right, then we will move on to diversity and inclusion.
Hi, everyone. So we have our meeting with our monthly check-in with Dr. V on Friday. The two main topics for our agenda on Friday are going to be the election and kind of response to that and ensuring safety for students. And then the second is talking about the President's Commission. So just a little background on that. They submitted a proposal for forming the working groups. And so we're going to talk to Dr. V about getting an update on those groups. Last semester and year, there was a lot of stuff going on with sexual health on campus and kind of working on that. And that's been going on throughout the summer. They are implementing a sexual health website onto the Student Health Service website. So there's more information with that, as well as the form for the Safer Sex Express stuff, which is the delivery to your PO box with other safer sex materials and stuff. And that's going to probably be implemented throughout the month of November. I met with a professor this last week from the politics department, Bettina Wilkinson, who's starting an initiative on race inequality and policy. And so it's a combination of event planning as well as research. So one thing she has happening soon is this Latinx and COVID-19 pandemic discussion forum on October 27 at 5 p.m. If you're interested, please feel free to message me about it. Just some other things our committee is focusing on is financial transparency for students. So there's been concerns that were brought up about giving students more clear resources on scholarships, grants, and stipends. And it's something that was worked on a little bit last year, but we're just going to continue to ensure that that information is more transparent for students across campus. And then, Uma, if you want to do the last point.
Yeah. So Ashley Parham from the Office of Wellbeing invited us to speak for Resilient Wake Live, which is a channel on their Instagram posts, and every week they do videos or podcasts or live interviews of students about resiliency. And so she invited, if any one of us want to speak on their Resilient Wake Live episode, maybe next week or sometime this semester, then let me know and I'll forward you to her. Yeah.
And then, sorry, I forgot to write this on the slide. Since our meeting with the mental health stuff, like Annie and Campus Life was talking about, we were talking a lot about freshmen, and I know you can go to the Campus Life committee meeting to talk about it more, but just one of the biggest concerns that was brought up to me personally was about a lot of the like blame and pressure on freshmen for any COVID spikes in general, especially these past couple weeks. And so there was just for people in this call and just in general, like trying to place blame on anyone specifically and looking at more as like a unifying force to work against spikes of COVID and maybe not put so much of the blame on freshmen because they're already having a tough year, especially finding friends. And it doesn't help when all the upperclassmen are like, oh, freshmen are causing all these COVID spikes, when that's not necessarily true.
Thank you, Pilar. Any questions for DNI or comments? All right, then we will move on to judiciary.
Yeah, so just a few updates. We have the last round of appointment interviews. I think that's tomorrow and day after with DNI and Drew. We have our code of conduct stuff. We had a very nice meeting with CC people, and we'll have more info on soon, but we were able to have just a nice conversation overall and bring up some of our concerns, and they asked us a lot of nice stuff. And we're moving the archival review process to next semester. And for the Democracy Week subcommittee, they are continuing outreach and planning, and they're going to be meeting with a Reynolds High teacher next Monday, so that's exciting. And for the appointment process subcommittee, they are finalizing recommendations, and hopefully by the end of the week, they'll be consulting with DNI. And yeah, also Ethan hasn't been feeling well. He's at the Best Western right now, so send them your best wishes.
Thank you, Sebastiano. Does anyone have any questions for judiciary? All right, then we will move on to public relations.
Hey everyone, I hope y'all are having a great week and are getting through midterms or getting over them. We're taking headshots for the website, so all freshmen and new senators who may not have one from the previous years, you need to get one. There's signups on the GroupMe, and wear a professional attire only from the waist up because that's all the picture is. If you don't have, I know a lot of the freshmen and other people are concerned if they don't have business attire, just send something in the social. There's plenty of us here. I know Allie offered some stuff for some girls, and I have stuff too, so just let us know and we can try and figure something out. Also, we are volunteering with the distribution of Love Feast candles. We're working with the Vice President's office on that. They had some people reach out to us, and so we can let you know on that when we have more information. Possibly putting together a putting together a video about urging voter participation. So I think we're going to work with Miles on that. And then we're also working on a thank you video, which will go out to everyone, pretty much just saying, thank you for helping us get through the semester. Fingers crossed that we do get through the semester now that we're seeing our spikes. But yeah, that's everything.
Does anyone have any questions for PR? Marianne, we'll make sure you get in the GroupMe. I saw your question, sorry. We'll add you tonight. Any other questions for PR? Okay, then we will move on to fiscal planning.
Hey y'all, so we sort of have a lot to cover as usual, but to begin, we had two great meetings last week with Mr. Wise and Mr. Campbell and Mr. Chris from Parking and Transport. So first, soup is making a return. They were just waiting for colder weather. There are actually a lot of gluten-free options. I guess you sort of maybe have to seek it, and they're working on promoting them. The pit is open till 9 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, as well as Sunday. In order for it to be open any longer, there would have to be some sort of trade-off by another place closing earlier. So if that still sounds like it's a concern, just let me know and I'll address it. The Freedom Plan is supposed to become even more free. There was a little bit of a glitch with that, but that should be totally fixed in the near future. And if you're interested in the Deacon Dining Coalition, please let me know if you're passionate about food options, anything of the sort. Please let me know because we need a representative. And for the wake line, the moral of the meeting was please use the on-demand shuttle service. It's going to run from noon to midnight starting at Halloween. And I think this is a really great option for if you're off campus. And Sarah and I went to that meeting, so I'm going to let her speak a little bit about that, if you would like. If not, it's okay.
Sure. So yeah, we talked to them, and this is just going to be on the weekends from 12 to midnight. So if you're at like the Crown Oaks or Crown Polo apartments and you need to get on campus, you can call them, and hopefully it'll just be like a 15-minute wait. And so that's just what we're going to do, because I know there were concerns about that. And then maybe in the future, it will also go to downtown or other places in the nearby area.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Also, y'all, sadly, Meredith's not here, so you're seeing a little bit too much of me tonight. But again, to reiterate, study spaces are open. I saw the sign in the library and I was thrilled. Big shout out to Gabby De La Vega for working on that. Working on the gym times being open longer. It's great. It's like the only late night study spot open these days. And just to reiterate, SG loves the wake line, so definitely utilize that. We got student government as a little logo there represented in the wake line right by Sarah riding shotgun. So yes, love the wake line, love Deacon Dining. Yes, that's all from me today.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions for physical planning?
So this kind of goes with what we were talking about during our report before, but Residence Hall is closed on the 24th, which is a Tuesday, and they're closed at 5 o'clock. And people oftentimes have class until 5 or after 5. So that seems to be a bit problematic. I was wondering if we could try to get that move out time pushed back until like noon the next day. Because I think last year that's what they did for winter break.
Yes, I will definitely look into that. I think that's really important, especially considering a lot of classes will go to 6. So yes, I will look into that. Thank you.
Any other questions for physical planning?
Yeah, I had one. Going back to what you said about the gluten-free options, I noticed that today there wasn't any normal gluten-free bread in the pit. They had like gluten-free cinnamon raisin, but not normal bread, so you couldn't get like sandwiches. And I was wondering if you knew if that was like just a fluke or if maybe that's something that we could work on.
Yeah, if I had to just give my humble opinion as to why, I would guess it has to do with just restocking. And I think something like that might also have to do with like normal bread. Like say you get like wheat bread and it's not there on like Wednesday, I think has to do with like the way they stock things. But if you notice that's like a very frequent thing and not just like say once a week, let me know. And to the information we got on gluten-free options, I will say it was obviously like gluten-free options as a whole. So yes, definitely let me know if that tends to be a problem and the concern, and regardless, I'll bring it up in the next meeting we have with Mr. Wise, and I'm happy to email him about it if you still see that as a concern.
Thank you.
Any other questions for physical planning? All right, then we will move on to SOC.
What's up, everyone? Having a good night. Hope you all are too. We're having a good night because we have close to a 50% response rate already on the survey, which is great. Really, really happy about that. Hopefully those numbers keep going up. We'll probably be doing follow-up emails the next couple of days on folks. We're checking in on the data and the questions people are going to have, looking at some of the statistics. Overall, the results are really positive, though. And yeah, I mean, just good stuff in general. Amber, want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and then Tim, we might be sending some questions your way in the next couple of days, just things that we don't exactly know the answer to. So just be on the lookout for that.
Sadly, we don't know whether or not the tap dancing facilities can be reopened, but we really hope that you do.
How dare you guys? Any questions for SOC?
May I follow up on them?
Sure.
It is so just been following along with it, and it is really exciting, the data we're seeing. Amber and Rory, I'm wondering if we can set up some time and we can analyze it and figure out how to answer the questions. But also, one of the things we want to follow up, not off of this assessment, but off of the numbers Aaron's looking at from Cork, is our hope is in the next week or so to send out a assessment similar. If you were a first-year student last year, you got an assessment after the first 6 weeks where we asked you about events and how that was affecting positively, hopefully, your sense of belonging. But between what the SOC is working on, we're starting to see a narrative. And I think, we need to sit and work it through and have some conversations in student government. But I think we as an institution may be discounting the effect this has had on upper class students and therefore student organizations. People keep kind of saying, why don't we get student organizations to do more? And I think maybe we're forgetting the strain that all of this has on those students, and the effect that has on the ability to do more. So there's some good data coming that I think will lead to some good conversation.
Thank you.
I have a real-time update for you regarding Residence Hall deadline, if you'd like me to go over that.
Go ahead.
So I'm being told that students that have class that conflict with closing time, exceptions can be made to those students. If students have class and can't travel prior, if it's an in-person class, they can contact Residence Life for an exception. And they're also checking on how many students that actually impacts to make sure that students that are asking really need it, for lack of a better word. So that's the update.
Thank you, Tim. Any other questions for SOC or about anything Tim just said?
Thanks, Tim.
Yes, that's very helpful for us, especially.
When I can get an answer via text or in student government, I'm happy to.
All right, then we will move on from committee reports. But if anyone has other questions, feel free to bring them up at a later point in the meeting. But for right now, does anyone have new business? Any Senate reports? Constituent concerns? Oh, sorry, Caroline.
Yeah, I had a Senate report. I met with Assistant Director of the Leadership and Character Program, Elizabeth Pierce, last week, and we talked about sustainability on campus and trying to engage students in sustainability efforts on campus. So hopefully we'll start working on some projects related to that. But if you have any ideas, feel free to reach out to me.
Any other Senate reports? Constituent concerns?
I had a concern. Oh, sorry. I had a concern brought to me about the roadblocks on the road. Everyone knows that it starts Friday afternoon and goes from all over the weekend, starting at around 7. But lately, in the past couple of weeks, people have seen the roadblocks going up on as early as Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And it's really, people are just voicing concerns about it getting in the way of food deliveries, grocery deliveries, and things like that. So I wasn't sure if that was a job for physical planning or something that y'all could look into.
Can you don't have to, only if it pertains to just the concern, feel free to just send it to me. But can you expand on the blocks? I don't have a car on campus or anything, so I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to. No, you're fine.
There's 2 roadblocks on the roadblocks. I think it's mainly on South Campus, right in front of Collins, South at Angelou Residence Hall, that street. And then when you go up the stairs, Johnson and Bostwick, those 2 roads after 7 are completely blocked off, so cars can't get there.
Okay, yes, I'll definitely look into it. I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Megan, just for context on that, I believe the roadblocks either come from University Police or Transportation. and they sit out by the road during the week and then get moved at night. So just so that you know more about where that's coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Any other constituent concerns?
I had one. When we go home for Thanksgiving break, well, not break, but when we go home for Thanksgiving, for students that are staying on campus, I would assume so, but our meal plans will still be active, I take it?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had two constituent concerns. The first one, I had a couple girls come up to me and ask about lighting on campus, that there's some spots like walking back late from Benson or ZSR if you've been studying, like in the horseshoes, like on either side of Renolda Hall, that it can get really dark there and like they take notice of it. And then there's also a light out on the quad in front of kitchen, I believe, that people have kind of taken notice of. And then the second, I guess I would go to physical planning. I'm not entirely sure. But the second one, I know I brought it up earlier about water in Petite, but I had another person come up to me this week asking if we even had a water fountain. I know it's kind of late in the semester at this point for that, but I thought I would bring it up again.
Yes, I will inquire about lighting, and as for the water fountain, I will also inquire about. I know that somebody in Senate the other week spoke about that there might actually be water fountains, or whatever filling stations. So that's also something to think about. And for those of you who have constituent concerns, do y'all mind texting me or emailing me the specifics just so I relay the question correctly? And that would be very helpful. So yes, thank you.
For the point on water fountains, if the issue is more so that people don't know where to find the water fountain, perhaps PR, if you guys could connect about how to maybe better publicize the location of fountains.
Part of it is that, so like, or whenever I brought it up earlier, people suggest maybe there's one in like a different room in Petite, or there's one in Huffman. But the issue is that Petite IDs don't work to get into Huffman, and you have to swipe in on the 4th and 3rd floor. So if there is water, we can't get to it. The only water fountain is in the lounge, which is closed due to COVID. So it's not that we don't have one, it's that we have restricted access to it. I think we're allowed, like, I think someone called like Res Life and Housing, and that we are only allowed to get to it. It's like 8 p.m. to midnight weeknights, and then 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. on the weekends, which like it's in the middle of the night. You're not really going to need water then. You need it more during the day. So that's really more of the concern.
Thank you, Sydney. Does anyone else have constituent concerns?
I have one. Someone asked me whether people who live off campus are going to be able to get on campus like during Thanksgiving break and after, and I was wondering if anyone knew.
Tim, do you know?
I was going to say, Vivian, send me some more details and I can get an answer. I have Dean of Students Leadership meeting tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Sydney, yes, I'm sure we can still get blankets are here for the entire campus. So I'll find out how they're still being distributed, but I believe through the residence halls.
Any other constituent concerns? Announcements? I don't know if everyone saw it in the chat, but Victoria got a job. So yay, Victoria.
Thanks, guys.
Really quickly, guys, what's up again? I am leading a march to the polls, well, with a couple other folks for our interfraternity council at 11:45 on Thursday. So similar to like some of the other ones that Senate leaders are doing. If you are interested and want to vote or come out and support, you are all more than welcome. Again, that's Thursday at 11:45.
Any other announcements? Just remember that we only have a couple Senates left. So if you need things done by the end of the semester, I need 48 hours notice before I can make anything happen. So keep that in mind. Everyone go vote for homecoming court. Vote for Miles and Victoria. I'm just gonna keep talking now until,
Motion to adjourn.
do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Anyone opposed, please raise your hand now. All right, y'all are free to go. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you.